Radio. Today we have joining us Ramona Pascual from Hong Kong, but right now she's in South Korea. How you doing, Ramona?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, John. Appreciate it.
So you've been going back and forth from Hong Kong to South Korea, for the last how long?
Since August.
Since August. So your first trip in August, what did you do in August?
So Road FC flew me out here just for training. Kind of backtrack to the first time I met the Mr. Jung and a couple of his other staff members was when they came to Hong Kong. I believe they were checking out venues and kind of just thinking about maybe having putting together a show there potentially. So they made a trip out for a few days in May, and then while they were there, they just figured, oh, why don't we just kind of scope out talent and see, just to get an idea. And it was really just an hour, and they just contacted pretty much everyone who fights in Hong Kong. So all these guys that I fought in the same cars before, or guys that I train with, they just said, show up at this place. It's just going to be an open mat, some sparring and stuff. And so I went to that, and that's where I met Mr. Jung. And then he suggested that I come here he said 2 weeks at the time. And I said, well, if it's like a sponsored trip where they cover all my expenses, like, why don't you make it 4? Because, 2 weeks isn't really enough time to get, accustomed to training styles or with a team. And it was really funny how that happened. He's outside of the cage watching us spar and roll and all this stuff. And then halfway through, he goes into the bathroom or changing room to change into training clothes. And he comes out and starts sparring with us. And so that in itself was such a crazy experience because you don't really see, whoever owner of like Dana White going and spar fighters, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So he goes in there and spars with us just to get an idea, and to get a feel for our level. So that was kind of, really cool, but nerve-wracking. So that's where I met him. And then that's when the conversation started. And so it wasn't until maybe the end of June that they actually made the final offer and actually said, we want you to come in these dates. So I was meant to go to Wonju for 4 weeks to train. And so that's where we started. And then my trip kept getting extended. And then I, had to head back home for a few things in between.
So now are you like a full-time fighter now, or do you still have your job as like a personal trainer, or are you doing anything else?
Timing wise was kind of crazy because when they had made me that offer, the place where I was working just coincidentally also closed down. And so I'm still a freelance trainer in Hong Kong. So every time I go back, I still have a handful of clients who I see and who I do sessions with, but obviously not as many clients as I used to have before. So yeah, I guess you could say that out of kind of not as a part of my own plan for, how my year was going to go, it was kind of just a surprise. But yeah, I guess, I am a full-time fighter now, at least while I'm here. And then when I do get to go back home, for a week or a couple weeks, then I do work, but it's not even, I wouldn't even consider it part-time work. And then I just kind of get to catch up with friends and family.
So you used to work at Epic MMA. Now, when they closed down, it was kind of big news. And when you heard the news yourself, because you were an employee, am I correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. How did you like feel, because you were there for many years?
I was. The thing with Hong Kong, it's a really tough place, for brick and mortar businesses, and anywhere you have to pay rent is really hard, especially in the fitness industry where the whole point of having a gym is needing to have space. And that's the one thing that, is so difficult to get in Hong Kong. It's just so expensive. So, the gym business is really tough. So, you see a lot of gyms kind of close down, and they were kind of on that route. Just, costs were just a bit too high to operate.
Mm.
So I wouldn't say it was like a massive shock to me. I think just kind of how it all happened was a bit of a shock. It was a bit dramatic, and all these things kind of came up. But yeah, I guess the timing kind of worked because that was literally happened as soon as I heard from Road FC. So it was kind of this weird, like, worked out for me, but at the same time, it was catastrophic for a lot of other people who, were employees, had families, or people that had put in money and, weren't able to see it again. So, um, yeah, it's just kind of
Mixed
a,
feelings.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, mixed feelings. But it's like you're kind of very lucky, I guess, because that worked out so well, like kind of transitioned perfectly for you to kind of go over there and pursue, something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually dreading the conversation because I had just taken 4 weeks off for a holiday in LA, and then that's when I got the offer. And then I was thinking, well, I can't just like go to work and ask them for another 4 weeks. Like, what are they gonna say? And then even if they did say yes, but I still had to go back to work. I wouldn't have been able to say yes to the extension of my stay here.
Mm.
And from that extension came so many other opportunities. So yeah, it worked out for me.
Now, you like you went to Wonju and you visited Team Force for 4 weeks, you said. Now you got to go train with Road FC champion uh
Kim,
Soo-Chul Kim, right? Now, he's the type of guy that, you know, everybody knows him, everybody knows how he trains. He's just nonstop. So like training with him, like what did you get out of that? Because I know he's like a machine.
it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. And I they always say, "Oh yeah, you're gonna be training with this guy. He's like the champ." And then you see him, and he's kind of this like soft-spoken, obviously really small. I mean, he could compete at 125,
Yeah.
if you want easily.
Yeah.
I feel like he's a little small for the 135 division. Um, just kind of soft-spoken, wears glasses and everything, and like really doesn't have that kind of um, loudness that you would expect from, a champ, right? Like he's not going off like showing everyone that he's champ, and just super chilled out guy. Just so, yeah, just so reserved, and I was kind of like, oh, this guy's a champ. And even when he tells you to do things, he's not like, he doesn't push you like a coach does, but kind of just give you all this information, but in such a nice way, but at the same time, you can kind of see like his mind working, and, you can tell that he's obsessed about the sport,
Mm.
every little thing. And every time he teaches something, he'll like reference some fighter, and he references all kinds of fighters. So he kind of shows you how he's just like so into it. Like you imagine him like time between classes, he's like studying tape. Like he doesn't mean to study, but that's what he enjoys, right? So and he works really hard. He teaches all the nighttime classes, and he's a really big influence in the fighters classes. And he's kind of, most of the time coaching us. So, and
Well,
he's only 25.
his nickname is well, it used to be the Korean Dexter.
Oh yeah, they do call him Dexter.
Yeah, so he kind of has that vibe. Like he's kind of like, to me, like seeing him fight for so many years and kind of seeing his progression. He's always been like a great mind, and
Yeah,
like you said, he he could be fighting at 125. He's fighting bigger guys, and it's amazing what he's done for, like for his size.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And just the respect that he commands as well is like incredible. Like everyone respects him, and he doesn't need to. He's not flashy about anything. And you can just tell how passionate he is about the sport, and how like all the media and all the press and all that stuff doesn't really matter to him. And he's really, in its essence, like such a martial artist with, so much care for the sport and care for his students.
Mm.
So it's absolutely incredible to be able to work with him.
Now, when you're getting all this information every day, all the time, is it kind of overwhelming sometimes when you're training with him?
I think he's good about not, trying to bombard you with too much. So, um, you know, it took me maybe 2 weeks to really get used to their style of training. And I just felt the first week I was just getting my ass handed to me. Like they weren't hurting me, or they weren't really going that hard, but just the pace was different. The drills are different. the methods were different. So having to acclimate to that. And also he'd watch me spar, and he'd actually spar with me and just point out maybe 2 or 3 things that he wanted me to, actually not even 3, just like 2 things. And then he just had me work on that, so it was great for me to really know like where the problem areas were, like kind of priority areas, and not just kind of be learning random fancy moves, because like some people, they just want to teach like these moves that maybe have nothing to do, that are not related to your game, just to kind of be like, oh yeah, I'm a coach and I teach awesome stuff. And for him, he really tried to zero in on what I needed, and it was very basic stuff. I don't really have extensive experience in MMA. I only started training like maybe, I don't know, over a year ago. So just really simple stuff, and breaking it down really helped.
Now they have a couple girls over there. Did you get to train with them?
I did not. They were talking about them, but I did not. I was there for 5 weeks ish,
Hmm.
but didn't get a chance to.
None of them showed up.
No, I think they were away or traveling. There was one girl or a couple girls in the evening classes. So I did get to train with them a little bit, but yeah, as far as I've been here for since August, and I haven't trained with any female. Actually, no, that's a lie. There was one female boxer who I did get to train with, but that was only one day. She like was visiting Aptujong Gym, but other than that, like I just been training with guys.
Well, I think that's most like the experience of a woman training, like training MMA is like most of the training will be with the guys, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, still even back home, most of my training partners are guys, if not all of them.
When you left Wonju after the four weeks, like how did you feel? Like how did you feel what you got out of that time that you spent, or did you want to just like stay, like you wanted to be there?
Yeah, I thought it changed my game. It changed my whole, not just the training part of it, like the training part, it changed the way that I looked at transitioning. So, and this is something I've kind of been telling everyone. I think they're kind of sick of me talking about this, but whenever someone asks me, like, especially when I went to go visit Hong Kong, and they asked, oh, how is training over there? And like, how is it different? And, I've trained in Hong Kong, I've trained in LA, I've trained, so those 2 places. And then here, I'd say, it's common to split. So when you say MMA, they split things up into like, okay, today's gonna be striking day, today's gonna be wrestling day, today's gonna be jiu-jitsu, and then we're gonna have like 1 day of MMA sparring or something like that.
Mhm.
So they kind of split it up, and then they pull it together on like 1 day. And so you have a lot of guys who are really have a good base in like one specific thing. In Korea, they approach it kind of in a very wholesome way, where it's just they train for MMA rules. So they train MMA every day. So it's not just, they don't have striking day, they don't have like a grappling day. They might be focused on one thing, but if you're going to be wrestling, there's going to be striking involved in it. If you're going to be doing jiu-jitsu, there's going to be striking involved with it in it. If you're going to be doing striking only, there's going to be takedowns included in it, So I actually, for me, that kind of opened my eyes, because I feel like that's way more, because MMA is a sport. And so there's specific rules, even though people say, oh, it's a bit of Muay Thai, it's a bit of Jiu-Jitsu, it's a bit of wrestling. It's not really any one thing. If you're going to use pure wrestling, that's not going to work. Obviously, like, they tried that in the earlier UFCs, and the whole point of this evolution of the sport into people being able to do everything is because of the rules of this sport. And so I find that, because I'm competing in MMA, and I'm not really competing in, I'm not an MMA fighter that's also doing Muay Thai, that's also doing Jiu-Jitsu. It's just so beneficial for me to have been exposed to that kind of training method, because it really changed my perspective, first of all, on like training for MMA.
Mhm.
Yeah, I prefer it so much more. I really like that I really had to focus on those transitions, and MMA is really so much about those transitions, how to get from standing to the ground, how to get from the ground back to standing up, how to use the cage. And so that stuff was what I was lacking a lot in my game. And that's what we worked on a lot in Wonju. So I really enjoyed my experience there. I did want to stay, but I also had some things that I had to take care of back home. And so I just figured, maybe I'll come back for camp potentially. And then when I went to Seoul, when I came over here to Seoul and went to the other Road FC gym here, Apgujeong, so their team is a lot bigger. And the coach that leads the sessions is an actual wrestler, I think, Coach Park.
Yeah.
That vibe was just, it was just more, there's more energy, obviously there's more people. Like at Team Force there was maybe like 3 or 4 of us, like 4 of us would be like maximum. And there was more kind of specific technique instruction, I think, with the team here. And it was a bigger team, more guys, so you can kind of just imagine the energy there. But the general style was very similar of like how each person spars and fights MMA. You can kind of tell that Koreans have a very specific style, and which is kind of why I think they can all progress so well together, because everyone's kind of on the same page. But yeah, I definitely wanted to stay for longer, and then kind of the show gave me the opportunity to do that.
Well, like in the world of MMA, Koreans, like they have a reputation as like the Koreans are tougher and the
Okay, yeah.
Japanese are a little bit more skilled, but the Koreans are tougher. Like they'll push forward even though they get hit, it doesn't matter. They're stronger. They have like that, the Korean War, like they fought.
There's definitely a lot of pride involved, and that's another thing too. Like me having to learn how to take a hit, but like the Korean way, it's kind of like no, like you put your hand, obviously everyone's always like, you need to learn basic striking, and they're like, yeah, put your hands up, chin down, hands up, or your hands up. And coach is like, no, like don't do that. Don't put your hand, like if you put your hands up like this in guard, you've already lost. And what you should do is actually, when you're getting overpowered by someone with strikes, you need to strike them back, and you need to come forward into them. And if you tuck your chin down low enough and you come forward, then that just exposes your forehead. And wouldn't it be better to get hit in the forehead than on the chin? And I was like, yeah, sure, that makes sense. And so that's the whole time. Every time I'm moving, they're not big fans of like moving backwards. With the American style, more Western style, it's like, yeah, you use a lot of footwork and you can move around. Even if you're moving backwards, you can still be effective. And I think it's a case by case basis. But maybe I was doing that a little bit too much, just not being aggressive. And so they're kind of telling me like, no, you need to come forward. Like if you're getting hit with a flurry of punches by someone who's like stronger, like you need to just throw that hook or like throw that cross and then clinch up, chin down, head straight in there. So that's been pretty cool to so yeah,
Different styles.
I totally agree with what you say. Like Koreans they're very tough fighters.
Now you talked about the TV show. The TV show loosely like translated is called Fearless Men,
No,
right?
yeah.
Loosely translated. But you're a woman, so like what is your, position on the show if you can talk about it?
Yeah, so so it's called Fearless Guys, pretty much
Okay.
the same thing. And yeah, I guess this season was the first time they ever had any females on the show. So it was initially just to have me kind of be exposed to, the media. And so from the perspective of Road FC, they kind of just wanted to put me there so people knew who I was before they put me on a card, just so, there's more interest that way. And I guess the way the Korean MMA works, like in Western markets, MMA is very much just MMA. Like they don't really feel the need to cross into entertainment that much. Like obviously you have the Ultimate Fighter and things like that, but largely, anytime they try to promote fighters, it's through the UFC. But in Korea, they try to do like, they try to cross you over into TV shows and like this and that, just so the non-MMA fan can still be a fan, right? And then still want to follow. And that's kind of how they they execute it. And so they wanted me to get on there. They said, "Oh, just go to the audition, you know, get some FaceTime, and then that'll be that." And so I went and did that. And apparently, like some of these other girls auditioned, they said, "Oh, it could be, you know, a good idea for you guys to move on to the next round." And so
Mm.
that's kind of how it just developed. It was kind of like, "Oh, yeah, maybe this will work." And so they didn't really have a plan for girls to be in it actually, but like as we went through the rounds, like on the fly, they'd just be like, "Oh, actually, this would be a cool spin," you know. So that's kind of how it all happened.
Yeah, they had another TV show, but like you just said, they didn't have any women on it. But this time, I think it's better to have the women on the show because it shows like it's not just guys that fight. You know what I mean? Because like Korea, still in Korea, MMA is not that big. Like jujitsu's big, but MMA is not that big, right? Even though Road FC is growing. So
Mm-hmm.
like having the women on there and kind of showing like the different aspects of like the fighting and the you know preparations and all that stuff, I think it's better
Mm-hmm.
for you definitely, right? And for the other girls that are on the show and for Road FC to grow. And it's on one of the biggest um broadcasting stations in Korea.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I've heard. You know, this whole time I've kind of been kind of roped into it and kind of, to be honest, like against, you know, my actual want to be on it. You know, I kind of just, you know, it's just not my thing to like do that TV thing. It kind of makes me kind of uncomfortable. But then they were kind of like, "No, no, you should do it. You should do it." You know, I'm not gonna say no. So I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll come do it." Um, but yeah, I guess, you know, you are right. They're trying to like, you know, really capture that broad audience and, you know, throw a couple girls in there, and you get all these other people that might not have been interested in it otherwise. So yeah, and I keep, you know, they keep telling me like, "Oh, NBC is like huge, it's huge." And you know, me being a foreigner, like new to this place, I'm like, "Oh, cool," you know, doing all these things, and half the time what they're saying, I have no idea what they're talking about. So I think I've yet to grasp, um, you know, how big of a deal this is, and I've kind of just like been in my own head thinking like, "Oh, what could that possibly mean?" You know. So yeah, we'll see. It's been fun, but
I think it's cool that you're able to kind of document your history as a fighter through the show, you know, like there's other things that you've done. You've had many fights, you have a few fights, and now you get to do a TV show, which is kind of, you know, most people don't get that chance. So it's cool, I think.
yeah, yeah, it is. And for me, it was kind of, you know, it's always uncomfortable. Obviously, this is like a very, you know, it's there's one winner from the show, so it's very competition based. So the fact that it's all competition plus I don't speak the language, so they translate maybe 5% of it. I would
Mm.
say 5, maybe 10. Like if it's in instructions, okay, because obviously I need to know the exact instructions. But other than that, everything else that gets that's actually said, there was no official translator. It was really just some crew members that could speak a little bit of English would kind of just tell me what to do next. Other than that, like people will say my name and I would not have no idea what they're talking, you know, what they're saying about me, you know. So that to that extent. So people who are going to watch the show are going to know more about what's going on than I did actually on the show. And so that was just, you know, obviously very challenging experience, you know, uncomfortable and just kind of being out of my element all the time and not knowing what was going on and, you know, always being confused. So that part was definitely not fun. But for me, it was more just such a big challenge and once in a lifetime opportunity that I just said, you know, just do it. Just keep going, you know, even though you don't want to be here, even though it's like hard, you know, because there were points where it got like really challenging. And I was
Mm.
kind of just like, just do it because no one's ever getting an opportunity like this. You're never going to get an opportunity like this. So just go for it.
Are you still filming the show or is the show over with?
Yeah. So it's still going on. It goes on until January actually, but
Mm.
really depends on like how far you make it.
Now what's like with Road, they started the all women's league, the Road XX, right?
Mhm.
And so they gonna throw you in there? They're gonna throw you in with the XX? Is that what's
I
going on?
don't think they will. I think, you know, they have kind of discussed it, but As far as confirmation, nothing's been confirmed,
Mm.
but I think it'd be a really great way for me to debut, because it is a smaller card, and it would be awesome just to be a part of an all-female card because that's so rare, right? Like I don't really know. I mean, there might be one or two others that I don't even know of, but yeah, it's just kind of cool, to know that you can actually get enough females to like fill a card, and it'll be at a small venue and all that. So I think segueing into like a big promotion like this, that'd kind of be a perfect platform for me to do that.
Have you had any interactions with like any of the other road, the women in road while you've been in
Uh,
Korea?
I have not really, no, not really, since I haven't really been training with any females either. Although I did see Chun Sun Yu
Mm.
she was helping out on the show, so she was kind of around. Other than that, haven't really.
Not really. They haven't. So she's the only one that actually like came out and filmed something for the show. And
Yeah, she was helping out and like
okay.
part of the kind of Road FC group.
So what like in your mind, like when do you want to get back into the cage? Like when will you be ready to go?
Oh, as soon as possible. Like when I decided to do this and decided to pursue MMA, I kind of gave myself. Well, I'm not saying I gave myself like a certain period of time, but I don't want to have a long career. MMA is just one of those like you don't really want to have a long drawn out career. And for me, starting at whatever I was like 27, 28 when I
Mm.
started fighting. I just thought I don't really want to be fighting well into like my mid 30s or anything like that. I just felt like I was a little late as well to start competing. So I thought, if I only have, I don't know, say 3 years, 3 to 4 years of this, I just need to give it as much as I can. And so I set it up in a way that I could do that. At the time I made the decision, I was working a desk job. I quit that. I was going to go full time into fighting. And then someone was like, well, you're not really, going to be able to sustain, a living just fighting. So why don't you look into, and at the time I already got my personal training certifications, not because I wanted to be a personal trainer. It was really just for myself to be able to program for myself. Cause I just thought, um, strength conditioning and fighting just go, hand in hand. And that was something that, really interested me. So I already had that. And they said, well, why don't you just do part-time, personal training? And so I was like, okay, that makes sense. So I did that. And then I kind of turned into like a full-time gig, but I was still able to devote enough time to train to my training to
Mm.
be considered kind of a full-time fighter. So I was training as much as I would have, even if I wasn't working, I guess you could say.
Mm.
And then, I just adjusted my schedule so that it would work out like that. So I'm really lucky to have been able to do that. So I had my first fight August, second one December of last year, third in March of this year, and then shortly after that in May. Actually really was hoping to get like 4 fights this year. And I was like being like really yeah, I was hoping for 4 at least. And I was kind of like, oh, maybe I might be able to get 5. But after the results of my 2 fights this year, so I won my 2 fights last year.
Mm.
This year, I lost both the fights that I was in earlier this year. I kind of just figured like, okay, I just need to maybe step away and kind of regroup a little bit. Because in my head, I just thought, fight as much as you can because that's where you're going to get all the experience. And I got tons of experience in those fights. And I can't say that I regret taking any of them, even though, some people strongly disagree with me. But I'm glad I went through that, kind of figured out what I needed to work on. And now I'm kind of just taking a step back. And actually, if Road FC hadn't offered me this training opportunity, I probably would have fought already in September because I got an offer for that. And then probably again in December in Hong Kong, just kind of smaller shows.
Mm.
But once they offered me this opportunity, I was like, okay, let's do it. Came out here and kind of opened my eyes to this whole nother world of style that I really would like to adopt into my my training and my fighting. Then I just decided, okay, I'm just gonna focus on the training, not have the pressure of a fight coming up to kind of take me away from having the mindset that I need to have to absorb as much as I can, right? Because if I had a fight in like 5-6 weeks or whatever, I'd train a little bit differently, maybe not be as kind of free, and liberal about like trying new things. It's more just I need to focus on my strengths, and because that strengths is what I'm going to use in this fight against this person, or use a specific technique against this person because it's going to work. So I was able to just really open my mind and just whatever it is that they want to teach me, I'm gonna drill that. Even if I kind of don't get it, even if it doesn't really work for my game, I'm gonna try doing that. Just to kind of open my mind and be more accepting of like anything and everything. And I feel like that was really necessary for me to progress as much as I have and as much as I wanted to while being here. So yeah, I guess I'm really hoping I get to fight one more time for the end of the year.
Oh well, that'd be great to see you back in the cage, like after you have, like you just said, after you've, been training and learning new things, and to show that you have elevated your game to everybody
Yeah,
that's watching is
sure.
that's what fighting is about. That's what being a fighter is, right?
Exactly.
So like are you like gonna move to Korea, or what's with that situation? Because you've been spending a lot of time there.
Yeah, people keep asking me that. I don't know. It really depends because I'm over here. So in Seoul, I'm over here. I'm lucky that a friend of mine is living here, so I kind of get to stay with her a little bit. Um, in Wonju, they put me up at a place because they're headquartered in Wonju, so they have a lot of connections in that area. So it was really low cost for them to kind of support me there. So essentially, they cover my flights, and then they also give me this like daily allowance just for food and transport. So they don't really pay me to be here, right? So that's kind of the whole reason I'm still here, just training and stuff. But um, I don't know. I kind of wouldn't be able to if I wanted to train in Seoul. It'd be tricky. Like I'd have to actually get a work visa, find a job, and all this stuff. Um, so and also English is so limited here. That's kind of been giving me a little bit of trouble with training. Obviously, whenever I look at someone teaching a technique, I have to be extra attentive because they're teaching Korean, right? I'm just using their like body language, and I have to study their faces to know what they might be talking about. But I don't know. It really depends on, I guess, opportunities that come up, and what kind of support I could possibly get in terms of sponsorship and stuff. But I don't. At this moment, I would say no.
If you don't, like Hong Kong's not that far away. You could just hop on a plane and just fly over in a couple hours, so it's
Yeah,
not too bad,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Yeah, Hong Kong's just an easy base because that's where I'm from, and like I know everyone there, and I have a job there, so it's just an easy place to be based out of.
I've been to Hong Kong a few times, and Hong Kong is more. I think maybe where I was at, it was a little bit more compact compared
Yeah,
to Seoul, right? Seoul's like more of a spread out
Seoul's
city.
huge.
Yeah,
Seoul's
spread out
so big.
city. So
It's
like
like
when you got to Seoul, have you been here before, or was this the first time?
yeah, I've been here maybe twice before. One time in high school, one time like 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Uh, but not for very long. Like really 5 days or even less. And it wasn't really just to see the city. It was for some specific activity or event. So this is kind of the first time I've actually spent a significant amount of time in Korea, or
Hmm.
longer than 5 days. But Seoul is massive. I mean, traffic is crazy.
Yeah.
I never, I never knew that. So the fact that I live super close to the gym, currently where I stay, is such a huge bonus because I mean, travel costs, or even if I had to take a subway to different places, I could take ages.
Yeah. Even like how's like the food, and like most people when they go to different places and train, the food is the most important thing for them.
Yeah.
Being able to eat properly and stuff like that. How is that okay for you and when you're in Seoul?
Okay, so this is I have like such interesting stories about this. Um, so I get a daily allowance that like covers really basic stuff, and in Wonju there was probably a fried chicken place and a pizza place on every single corner, mixed in
Yeah.
with like places and bakeries and Korean restaurants. But there was nowhere. So I was staying in a hotel room, and so I didn't have a microwave. I didn't have like a stove. I just had a hot kettle, right? And so I couldn't find anywhere where I could buy cooked chicken breast that
Mm.
wasn't fried. And so I ended up having to get like protein from tuna or canned chicken, which sounds so gross, but actually kind of got used to it. It's not so bad. And then I would just eat a lot of vegetables, like a
Mm.
ton of vegetables, like raw vegetables. If I wanted like rice, I would get it from the convenience store and like microwave it there. But yeah, I ate a lot of like raw veggies, stuff that I would cook before, like broccoli or like zucchini and stuff like that. I would just eat it raw because like, there's nowhere to cook it. So I'd chop it up and throw it in a salad. But it worked out fine,
Mm.
like I would, you know, I was more than happy about it. Like I'm big on preparing my own meals, so that wasn't a big problem. I always find a way. And in Seoul, it's a bit easier. There are more food choices. In Wonju, I couldn't actually go somewhere and get a salad that was like halfway decent. But in Seoul, there are a lot more options. So um, it's been interesting, just, but most of the time I just prep my own meals and it works out. And whenever, I do go out with team members or Road FC staff or anything, then we'll have more kind of traditional Korean food. And, you know, that's always amazing.
Hey, what's up with all the chicken places in Korea? Don't you notice like there's a fried chicken place, like you
Oh,
said, like on every corner?
they love their chicken. And the thing is, it's wagyu, right? So you think like, out in the country, and man, every place. Actually, I did a lap around like the neighborhood where I was just to see because you know I thought like if they fried chicken, maybe they have grilled chicken. No, they didn't. I mean, a lot of the places in Seoul they have like fried chicken and grilled chicken, but not in Wonju.
Everything they're just dipping in that oil, huh?
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah, they do. They that like I love it too, but I live here too, but it's like it's ridiculous how many fried chicken restaurants there is if you've been to the
Yeah,
States and they love chicken too over there and it's not like that.
yeah, it's not like that. It's
So
not.
it's weird. It's a phenomenon, I guess. The fried
I know.
chicken phenomenon
All the
in
I'm hearing
Korea.
too.
Going back to the Apgujeong gym, right, with Team Gangnam, you got to train with Kwan, who is
Yeah,
the
I did.
champion, the lightweight champion, and he has a reputation, like you see him on the internet and you see him on
Yeah.
TV. You saw him like, did you see him when he was talking crazy to Habib
No, I didn't.
in the
But
press conference?
no, I didn't. But I've seen his posts. But people tell me that, and it's funny because um, I didn't really. Well, I knew who he was before I met him, but I didn't follow him on any social media platform or anything like that at the time. And so I wasn't really aware of his like, his persona,
Hmm.
kind of in the media and stuff. And yeah, so people, whenever I go back to Hong Kong, people like, who know Korean MMA, like know Road FC fighters, would be like, oh yeah, Zaso, like, is he like really mean? Like, is he like that? Um, and I have to say, he is not at all. Like, he is quiet, like so pleasant. Smiles a lot. He doesn't, try to ruffle feathers at all. It's totally different. He's such a great guy.
Yeah, I've been around him a few times and he knows when to turn it on.
Oh
That's
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what he does. And he's
Absolutely.
very rare in that's very rare in Korean MMA
Uh-huh.
that a person like him comes along where he knows how to turn it on when the cameras are on and like
Yeah.
basically talk shit to people.
Yeah.
And cuz
Yeah.
all the other guys, they don't at all really.
It's not really a Korean thing. The trash
No.
talking,
Mhm.
not at all a Korean thing. He does it so well. And
Yeah.
it's more amazing that he's just this opposite person, so respectful and so sweet just in like in person. So
I always wish that he would speak English. Like he was able to speak English well. Because whenever like he's talking in Korean to like say Habib
Yeah.
Gurbanedov or whatever his name is, he doesn't understand what he's saying, you know? So it's like he's just talking and then, he just gets the feeling that he's talking to him in a negative manner. So I wish
Yeah.
he would speak I wish he was able to speak English. It would
Oh
make him a
man.
bigger star in the world, I think.
Yeah, I think so too, for sure. Absolutely.
How about the big man? The Chinese
Arena.
Supernova. Did you get to trade with him?
Yeah, yeah. So not I didn't get to like actually work directly with him. Obviously, they have like some of the bigger guys train with him, but
Mm.
yeah, he's a really sweet guy too, you know? And I mean, I trained with him just today and yesterday, and I had no idea he was so young. He's like way younger than he's 23 years old, which is like blows my mind, you know? You're like fighting World of C, like he's from like Inner Mongolia, and I don't even know his story really. Um, because I speak a little bit of Mandarin because I learned it in school, but I haven't practiced it in ages, so it's pretty atrocious. But we do communicate, and like sometimes I do help with a little bit of translation. But he's a really nice guy, and I've seen people in the street just like yell his name, from like sitting at a cafe or something while we're like walking down the street. Um, but yeah, he's a really nice guy as well.
Yeah, he's addicted to the Korean fried chicken.
Oh yeah, I bet.
I heard he comes over for that, mainly for that.
I would not be surprised.
Before I let you go, I have like one last question for you. Um, what where do you expect to be by like the end of 2018? That's far away, but where do you expect to be in your career by that time?
Man, that is such a good question. That is such a good question. Um, I definitely, so this kind of year, I don't want to get like too philosophical about it, but like this whole year and a little bit of last year as well, I started off my career like when I started fighting at 22, it was all about like, physical and like, needing to be faster, stronger, and like, you know, um, be more athletic than the other person. And if I work out hard enough, if I, um, do the hardest workouts ever, and if I kill myself in training, I'll be better conditioned to fight this person because I'll be, physically better. And just the past couple of years, I've just been focusing so much more on the mental side of things.
Mm.
And it's kind of made me a better fighter, and not just a better fighter, but kind of just made me look at life a little bit differently and be more open to criticism, be more open to, um, messing up, being more open to losing, like failing and stuff like that. And I feel like that has been one of the biggest things that has helped me gain these opportunities, but not just that, make the most out of these opportunities, especially this year, in this part of the year. Um, and just within this month, or like these 2 months alone in Korea, how much I've grown being in an environment where I didn't know anyone, I did speak the language, um, and developed in skills, but also kind of just in character, being okay with being alone all the time and like having all these lonely moments during the day because, um, none of my teammates speak English, or like, I just hang out on my own and stuff. It's kind of given me so much more confidence to be able to take on more, to kind of be able to look ahead and shoot for more. And so, if you'd asked me this question like 2 months ago, I probably would have had a way more different answer.
Mm.
But now, after everything that I've been through, like, man, by the end of 2018, I think I'll be like a lot further along in my MMA career. Whether it is with Road FC, whether it is with another organization. Um, I've gotten, now that I've been here, a lot of times I had this huge, it was all about fears. A lot of fears that I really had to face this whole trip. And one of them was being a full-time fighter, because everyone says that you can't do it. And I thought you couldn't do it. It's like, no, you can't, like, you're not going to make it. You're going to struggle. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're not going to leave your job just to go somewhere else to train. And then, how are you going to feed yourself? How are you going to do this and that? And For the longest time, I was kind of like, no, I can't leave Hong Kong or train outside Hong Kong because I don't have an opportunity that'll allow me to do that. But I feel like at some certain points, like you can make it work. Like if you really want to make it work, you can make it work. If you really need help, you'll ask for help and you'll get that help, you know, if you really want it and if you really believe in it. So man, where am I going to be? You know, I really hope I'd be close to some kind of title shot. Um, and, uh, and just be a lot more developed in my skills, and for people to really notice the difference between who I was when I first fought last year and who I'll be, you know, at the tail end of 2018. And I feel like I finally gained the confidence and kind of leveled out my mindset to really put myself in a good position to accept the process and really trust that growth, you know, trust that whole growth that includes all the downs and all the hard stuff that I'm going to have to deal with and all the, you know, all the obstacles. So I'm really optimistic with where I'll be at the end of 2018. And of course with the show, that's really going to help out as well. So I've been told, so we'll see about that. But yeah, just, you know, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. Keep, you know, sharing my story with people, you know, because I feel like the more I do that and the more I put myself in these positions and experience more things, you know, people really appreciate that, you know, because a lot of people kind of, they also have that fear. They have a fear that I have as well, that I used to have more of. And so I'm just trying to break out of that and, you know, kind of just take people along with me, you know, show them that, you know, they just have to go and do it. Show me failing and being okay. And yeah, so by the end of 2018, hopefully in lines for some kind of title shot. And I really hope I get to fight like 4 times next year. I'm really, you know, I want to get it done and try to squeeze in as much as I can.
Well, you're in a great position because Road is opening up and kind of like backing the women's divisions right now. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I believe you. I believe you, you know, you explained to me and I kind of convinced me a little bit that, you know, you'll be at a title shot by next year, probably maybe for Road, you know, because
Yeah.
the opportunity is there, right? Like the divisions are there. Now, what division would you be fighting in?
So I would be, so the official division's 135, 145. I would prefer to fight a 135. Just because my 2 fights this year were at 145, um, and I haven't actually fought MMA at 135. I've actually done like a catch weight at 140. So 140 is actually the perfect weight for me.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, it's kind of in between divisions. So I'd really like to go down to 135. And I think if I just do it the right way, and I've had enough experience that I've read up enough on nutrition and stuff, and it's kind of another passion of mine to really learn about that and get comfortable with that. I definitely believe that I could get down to 135 safely, and at 135, I'd be bigger and stronger than, you know, most of the people in that division. 145, I'd have a harder time to really be a force, but I'd like to compete at 135 and see how that goes.
Hey, it's wide open. It's
Yeah,
wide open for you in the, you know, in the promotion to go out there and get that title. So it's great. It was great talking to you. You know,
yeah,
like I know that you will be at the road. Are you gonna be at any of the future road events in case somebody sees you and they're like, hey, you know, what's going on?
now potentially I might be. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to be at the one this month on the 28th. So we'll see because I might have to head home for then. But if not, then fingers crossed. Maybe the next one might be the double X show in December.
Awesome. They just announced that Hamsoi is gonna defend her title.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they just announced it, so you know, maybe you'll be on there and do your thing. So it was great talking to you. Thank you for your time and good luck on your ventures in Korea.